The movie starts with a woman named Alice, who is 38 years old. She is in Brazil for work and is heading back home to Paris. On her way to the airport, Alice calls her friend Pauline at work. Pauline tells her that their boss, Lisa, has been by the boss's side since Alice left. Alice wants to talk to the boss, but Pauline sees Lisa and Vincent going into his office and closing the blinds. Pauline tells Alice that talking to him won't be possible on the plane. Alice is annoyed by a man on the plane who is being too assertive. Meanwhile, a teenage boy named Balthazar's seat has been taken by someone else, and the flight attendant asks him to sit next to Alice in first class. Alice pulls the boy down into the seat so that the other guy doesn't take it. The guy had just asked her out. Later, Alice is slightly annoyed by Balthazar, who is enjoying himself too much since he got upgraded to a better seat. But then, the plane experiences strong turbulence, and everyone gets scared. The teenage boy tries to distract Alice, and when the lights go out, Alice grabs his hand out of fear. Eventually, the turbulence subsides, and everything returns to normal. After Alice walks away, Balthazar notices the flash drive on the floor. He runs after her to give it back, but Alice has already gotten into a car without realizing that Balthazar is chasing after her to return the flash drive. In the next scene, Alice arrives at her workplace and is greeted by her work rival, Elise, who wants to take over Alice's job. This angers Alice, so she goes to talk to Vincent about Elise. To her surprise, Vincent tells her that Elise is a better fit for the job because she is more daring and willing to take risks, while Alice is uptight and doesn't like to take chances. We also learn that Elise has been married 3 times to both men and women, while Alice got divorced 8 years ago and became focused on her work. Overall, Alice's boss believes that Elise's bold attitude inspires people to dream bigger. He suggests that Alice take another editorial position at a different magazine, which would give her more time with her daughter. Angry and frustrated, Alice leaves. At home, her ex-husband visits to pick up their daughter, Zoe, and after saying goodbye to them, she goes back to work and feels even more frustrated because she lost her flash drive. After searching for a while, Alice finds a note left by Pauline, who gives her a phone number to call. Balthazar answers the call, but he's at a noisy bar during happy hour. Alice introduces herself and asks about her flash drive. Balthazar says he has it and gives her the bar's address. Alice rushes over to the bar. When Alice arrives, Balthazar introduces her to his friends and explains that there was a misunderstanding over the phone. He actually doesn't have her flash drive. It's at his home. Meanwhile, 2 of Alice's coworkers spot her at the bar and are surprised to see her there. They follow Alice and Balthazar outside, where Balthazar helps Alice put on a helmet. From a distance, it looks like they're about to kiss, and Alice's coworkers waste no time in taking a picture and posting it on Twitter. Balthazar drives Alice to his house on his pink Hello Kitty scooter, which he got by mistake because the advertising picture was black and white. At his house, we meet Balthazar's dad, who is dating a much younger girl. He shares his opinion on an upcoming show, and then Balthazar searches for Alice's flash drive. Alice thanks him and leaves, but Balthazar asks if she'd like to have coffee with him sometime. Alice realizes he's asking her out but tells him that she doesn't date younger boys like him. The next morning at work, Alice notices her coworkers whispering and laughing at her. When Pauline arrives, Alice asks what's going on, and Pauline shows her the picture of her and Balthazar with the title, A Cougar. Later, Alice talks to her boss about something work-related, and he appreciates her going for a younger guy, saying he likes different things that align with the spirit of the magazine Rebel. Alice later discusses this with her friend, who suggests that she hang out with Balthazar, be friendly to him, and make it seem like the rumors are true. The friend explains that if Alice wants to keep her job, she has to keep her boss happy, and her boss doesn't like workaholics like her. Alice is skeptical, but decides to give it a try. She changes into a sexier outfit and goes to Balthazar's college. Balthazar is shocked but happy to see her there. He becomes even more thrilled when she asks if he's free to hang out that night at an art exhibition. Back at home, Alice talks to Zoe about popular music bands and memorizes their names to mention in front of Balthazar, trying to fit in with his interests. They meet up at the exhibition, and Balthazar enjoys one of the interactive pieces. Alice personally finds the exhibition embarrassing. When the artist Claude shows up and asks for her opinion, Alice flatters him. However, when Claude acts arrogantly towards Balthazar and asks for his honest opinion, Balthazar gives a very insulting review. This offends Claude, and he leaves. Alice tells Balthazar that no one here speaks their honest opinion. They go to the balcony, where Alice tries to keep pretending she's in love with Balthazar, especially since Elise catches their eye. Alice hopes to run into her boss to show off Balthazar, her apparent partner. Soon, Lee approaches and strikes up a conversation, mentioning that their boss won't be able to make it tonight. After Balthazar declines a joint lease offer, Lee asks Alice where she found him. And Alice, feeling angry, snatches the joint and takes a long drag. Balthazar overhears the word doctor when Alice receives a call from her sister, who wants to set her up with her gynecologist, Richard. Thinking Alice's daughter is at the hospital, Balthazar stops a cab and pulls the passenger out so Alice can go to the hospital. Alice smiles as the cab drives away, impressed by Balthazar's actions. At dinner with the gynecologist, Alice is very high and keeps making mistakes, unlike her usual uptight self. In the next scene, Alice takes Balthazar to a runway show, dressing boldly to impress her boss, who is also attending. However, Balthazar embarrasses himself by loudly asking who Kimmel is. Later, when a model trips and falls, Balthazar rushes to the rescue, attracting everyone's attention. Alice introduces Balthazar to her boss at the party, but Lee bombards him with questions. Realizing this, Alice pulls her young boyfriend onto the dance floor, attempting the sensual dance. The police figure out their pretense and inform her boss. One of Zoe's friends tries to take a picture, but Alice notices in time and leaves, making her boss think they sneaked off for a romantic encounter. Later, when Balthazar drives Alice home, he kisses her after learning her daughter isn't home. Alice invites him in, and they spend the night together. The next morning, it's raining heavily, and Alice lets Balthazar stay until the rain stops. He finds a book written by Alice, which intrigues him. As Alice tries to take the book from him, they end up in a compromising position. Elizabeth and Zoe enter the house at that moment, and Alice pretends that Balthazar is her intern. Alice escorts them out, but not before giving him a kiss. A few days later, they meet up again with Balthazar. He goes out of his way to leave cute little notes and an iPod for Alice before he picks her up, and they go out on a date. Later, while lying in bed, Balthazar asks her why she chose to date him. But before she can answer, he dismisses his own question. The next scene shows Alice at a work meeting dominated by Lise, who has crude ideas for the next issue's theme. Alice is in the corner texting with Balthazar and laughing. The boss asks Alice for her thoughts, and Lise mocks her, suggesting that Alice must have boring ideas like armpit stains or high heels. However, Alice surprises them all with a bold idea about transcending stereotypes. She mentions being labeled a MILF and a cougar just because she's dating a younger guy, but she isn't bothered by it. She suggests they have a theme about fantasies and sexual activities, ignoring stereotypes. That night, Alice looks at herself in the mirror and contemplates telling Balthazar the truth about why she started dating him. She thinks it's not a good idea because her face will have wrinkles in a few years. Nevertheless, she meets up with Balthazar, and he takes her to a cool futuristic building, which he loves since he's an architecture student. They share a drink, and Balthazar confesses how much he loves being with her and seeing her. He admits that when she's not around, he hopes to see her. Alice is deeply touched but asks if he thinks this relationship is a good idea. She reminds him that she has a grown daughter and that when he's 30, she'll be 50. She suggests it's best if they don't continue with this. At work, Alice's idea is a hit, and her boss is very pleased with her. Her friend Simon asks if she told Balthazar the truth about the promotion before breaking up with him, but she says no. At school, Zoe gets into a fight with another girl who showed her a video of Alice dancing with Balthazar. Alice's ex-husband is angry and tells her that she'll have to explain herself to Zoe. Alice defends herself by questioning why it's acceptable for him to date someone much younger, but when she does it, it's seen as bad. He replies that it's okay for him because he's a man. An important day arrives at Rebel Magazine's office as Tracy Kimmel visits. However, she doesn't like the look of the male model. After rejecting other models, she asks about the guy she saw at the runway, referring to Balthazar. Vincent thinks it's a fantastic idea and says yes. When Alice tries to talk to him about it, He tells her that if she wants the promotion, she should get her boyfriend to pose for the shoot. Desperate, Alice calls Balthazar, but he doesn't answer because he's too busy feeling sad and drinking after their breakup. Balthazar's father returns home to find the place filled with beer bottles and junk food wrappers. Just as Alice arrives to see Balthazar, his father gives him his own clothes and pretends to be the one who's drunk and miserable over a girl. This way, Alice doesn't think it was Balthazar. They go out to talk, and Alice nervously brings up the topic of the shoot, but Balthazar isn't too happy about the idea. On the day of the shoot, Alice keeps calling Balthazar and telling everyone that he is on his way. Simon advises her to be honest, but Alice doesn't reveal the truth. The photographer is very rude and causes trouble for the entire crew. Just as Alice starts losing hope, Balthazar finally arrives and goes straight to hair and makeup. Simon approaches him and apologizes, unaware that Alice never told Balthazar the truth. The shoot begins with Balthazar angry at Alice, and things go wrong when the photographer upsets him, leading him to storm off. Alice tries to talk to him, and he confronts her about the situation in front of everyone. Vincent tells Alice that she has ruined their 10-year friendship and fires her, suggesting she find a new vocation. Alice leaves feeling disheartened about the job and her relationship with Balthazar. She keeps finding reminders of him, like a note he left on a tree and his show behind her mirror. Eventually, Alice decides to visit him at his college. She asks his friends where Balthazar is because she needs to talk to him. They point her downstairs, but a student mistakes her for a guest speaker and guides her to a classroom for a lecture by Quincy. Coincidentally, Balthazar is there too, and Alice decides to play along. She tries to talk about infrastructures and modernizations, but in doing so, she admits her mistake to Balthazar. The students start applauding, and just then, Balthazar comes down and asks Alice what all this means, and she kisses him in front of everyone. Months later, Alice is going to the printing press to oversee something and inform Simon that they will need to start over. Later, Alice visits Balthazar and shows him the finished copies of her new book, which she wrote inspired by their relationship. And they share a kiss, and the movie ends.